Mic check, mic check, mic check. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you're tuning into this. Hope you're having an incredible one. In fact, I know you're having an incredible one because you're up, you're alive, you're around people that you love. Hopefully, you're just not taking the moment for granted. Mic check, mic check. Facebook, what's up? Facebook, what's up? Today, we are simply recapping the entire conversation this week, which is about the difference of being called out or being called up. You got to understand what's really going on with a person, what's really going on with yourself, what's really bothering a person to know the difference of being called out versus being called up. So self is really bothering a person to know the difference. So we're going to dive into all of that today, or not necessarily dive into it, but just recap everything we've been discussing in terms of being called out or being called up. First and foremost, let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to me, new to my world, new to what I'm all about. My name is Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time, very soon to be six-time published author and educator. What I do, what I create a whole system, a whole brand, a whole philosophy that's all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learned on the football field and aligning them with business owners so they have a group of employees and a staff that moves as efficiently and has the same energy, has the same passion, has the same goals, has the same mentality of a championship high school or youth football team. That's what I teach. That's what I've been able to translate from the football world into the business world. Okay, so that is what we do over here in a nutshell. And if you're interested in more in that, actually, you know what? Let me just get through the announcements now before we start our recap. For the day. If you are a business owner and you're interested in here, you like the sound of that, right? You like the sound of that. You like the sound of the idea, the concept of being a person that walks into your business and having a group of employees that has that eagerness to them, that strength to them, that hunger to them. If you like the sound of that, just simply go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. We have a very simple formula that we use around here. It's number one, you're establishing your measurables. You're knowing exactly what's expected of a person long before. Okay, right from jump, you got to know what the expectation is of a person. You got to make sure they have measurables that they can hit, what the measurables are, how the measurables are going to be effective in the long haul. And then you got to establish a professional distance. Again, establishing measurables, having a professional distance, that will lead, and only that is going to lead to a productive environment. Make sure you have those things. Simply go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com, make sure you get in contact with me, and I will send over a free guide so we can start the process. However, this will not solve the problem. All right. It's going to just kind of put a Band-Aid on it. What we want to do is solve the problem from the inside out. And for you to do that, you need to actually hire someone. You need to bring someone like myself in to speak so we can really diagnose what the issues are and implement a system that's going to make it so the problem gets solved so you don't have the issue of turnover. All right. So if you're interested in moving more forward with that, then simply go to makeyourmove.com. You can book me to speak right there. You can look through all of the information I have out there. There's a ton of information out there on me. You can order some of the books and merch, all that kind of stuff is available on makeyourmove.com for you to move forward with the employee development workshops and all of that stuff. So all that being said, let's get right into what we're going to be discussing today. We are simply recapping a week of explaining the difference of being called out versus being called up. And when you're talking about this subject of being called out and not called up, it is a very challenging one to see. It's a challenging one because you gotta have a confidence in yourself and a confidence in your decisions that nobody else is going to see. All right. Nobody else is going to understand it. Nobody else but you are going to really understand the decisions that you're making, why you're making these decisions, because I'm just laughing at this text message. Why you're making these decisions, because nobody is in your own head and nobody has your experiences. Nobody knows you from how you felt as a child to how you're dealing with difficult situations as an adult and how you interpreted what got said to you, how this got said. No one knows your heart like you know your heart. All right. So what's important is that you really give yourself time to reflect. You really give yourself time to think. You really give yourself time to understand how far you may have come, regardless of where your situation is and what you're choosing to say or what you're not choosing to say publicly. All that stuff goes into consideration when you're in the process of being called out or called up, because in many ways they're going to be sounding the same thing on a surface level. But if you really take a deeper dive, take a step back in terms of what it is a person's actually saying to you, it's coming from a point of view they have and a point of view you have, and it's almost inevitable that they're always going to clash. All right, so let's go back to Monday. Let's go back to Monday's article where I spoke about, are you being called out or are you being called up? And I referenced the way I found out. Let me hold on. Just realized it's not on the screen. Right. I had come up with the. It's up there now. Podcast listeners, it took me some time to just put the article on the screen. So I came up with this week's theme because I was sitting in church with my girl, and it was on the Father's Day sermon, and the Father's Day sermon was all about. It was titled "Being a Thermostat Dad" and setting the temperature, and being the person that's coming in and setting the temperature and setting the tone for what it is, the situation is going to be, what life is going to be, and all that stuff. Now, this extends beyond being a father. This actually just extends in terms of how you want to set your brand, how you want to set your business up, how exactly you are planning to live your life and what it is you want to do. So when you look at the difference of being called up or called out, I spoke on the difference, and I'm reading directly from the article now. Says, what's the difference? The question hit me hard during a church sermon I had on Father's Day. The pastor Scott willing to deliver the message. Talking about fathers who, all right. So here's right here where I want to start off the recap. Okay, so he was talking about fathers, those who may feel insecure or unprepared for the responsibility. All right. So it doesn't just have to be fatherhood when it comes to feeling insecure or unprepared for a responsibility. It could come in, you could come in a brand new relationship. It can come in a brand new job that you have. It can come in a new client that you find. It could come in living in a new area. It could come in a situation where now you decided you wanted to move somewhere. Like if you want to look at my situation, I decided that I was going to leave my hometown of Maryland, leave everything I knew, pick up, move to Florida. I was very, very unprepared, insecure. There's a responsibility that I had for my own self-determination. All that stuff came rushing through. So it was one of those things where you're going to feel insecure and unprepared when you're taking on a new role in life. It just simply happens. There's no avoiding it, no way around it. So in his words, some men need to understand that what feels like pressure is really a calling up. That's what you got to understand. It's not a calling out, it's a calling up. All right, it's a calling up in some ways. Now, sometimes you will get called out because there's plenty of things that I've done the wrong way, that I've managed the wrong way. But calling out and calling up, all of that stuff needs to be discussed. So, boom, light bulb moment. I instantly flashed back to my playing days at Stony Brook. One practice, a player got singled out by a coach in front of everyone. Afterward, I heard the player tell the coach, "Hey, don't ever call me out like that again." That's when it clicked. Being called out is about exposure. Being called up is about elevation. And the truth is, in the moment, it can be hard to tell which one is happening, especially when emotions are high. Here, let me let me simplify it. Being called out, you're not equipped, you don't have the skills, or you're falling short and someone is exposing it. Being called up, you have the ability, but maybe you're not delivering at the standard, or you just haven't found the confidence yet. Someone sees the potential and wants to elevate you. That's the difference. Being called up and being called out are two separate things. So we diagnose that. And the big takeaway, I'll go to Tuesdays. I won't go through the full article. You can go read it on your own, or go back to Monday's episode. But the big takeaway, the simple way of me saying it, explaining it, is you need to be putting yourself in a situation where the people around you, or positioning yourself in a situation where the people around you are helping you to be called up, okay? Or the people around you, the folks that you have in your circle, the folks that you trust the most, are more so coming at you because they want to see you get better, and they want to see you elevate to levels in life that you could only foresee for yourself, or like you couldn't even see in your own. All right. That's the difference. You need to have the understanding of being called up is who is going to be based on who you have around you, right? It's going to be based on who you have around you. And those are decisions that you can be in control of. You can really do an inventory of your life and say, who's in my life, who's around me, and are they people that are about helping me elevate and go to levels and go to places that I want to be successful, and the places that I've always envisioned myself being. All right. So there's a process towards doing that. And that's where we went when it came to Top 5 Tuesday. So Top 5 Tuesday is the top 5 ways to know you're being called up. And there's a difference in it, because you will know. All right. You'll know when you're being called up. You'll know the people around you. They'll be clear around you when it comes to them simply calling up, because they will give you no credit. They will absolutely only pay attention to the negative things. They will never, ever, 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 ever have the decency of, I won't even use the word compliment. They won't have the decency of even acknowledging the work that you do that is beneficial to an entire environment. All right. I'll give you an example here. I'm one of the two people at this school now. For those of you who don't know, I teach. I'm one of the 2 people at the school that drives the buses. And, when you drive a bus, when it comes to a school K through, what doesn't really matter what the age group of it is. When you have children on a bus and you're traveling with children on a bus, you're taking a huge risk, because you're taking them off campus and you're dropping them somewhere. There's a lot of logistical work that goes on, but I'm one of the few people that actually do it. And the normal day, typical day, especially the person who's responsible for the bus, the typical day where nothing goes wrong, I don't hear from that person. Like, as long as everything is fine, I don't hear from this person at all. Now, let's say that something happened. Let's say it needs gas. Let's say there's a situation. Actually, there was a situation a couple months ago, where accidentally there was a windshield that I hit on a car, something like that. Then that person is going to say this and say that to me. Or there was a situation when we first started doing it where I decided that I was going to just drive the bus in the morning. The other person wasn't going to do it because there was some obligation there, and we didn't check with him or whatever it was. Whenever something goes wrong, then you hear from the person. All right. But you're never going to hear it much from the people who are quote unquote responsible when things are just simply going right on the typical day. That's what I mean when you got to remove folks like that who simply want to spend their time calling you out, versus, hey, people who see what you're all about, see the consistency, see what you're trying to do with your life, and then they decide to call you up. All right, that is what our goal is when it comes to how we operate and how we make sure we structure the pieces in our life and the people that are around us. We got to be really, really great at deciphering those folks and deciphering the people who. Oh, let me get some water here. Deciphering the people who are around us, so they understand that. So that's important. So let's get into the top 5. The top 5. Here's was this week's top 5. Number 1, how do we do it? The first thing is that they'll point out again. So the right people, the right folks that are in our life, and the right leaders that we have around us, the very first thing that they're going to point out is a physical attribute. All right. It's a physical attribute or a natural a natural ability to do this thing. And I used the example on Tuesday of a former teammate I had. His name was Kenny. All right. Kenny was an incoming freshman in 2009, and I transferred to Stony Brook in 2009. So he came in, and, he ended up playing pretty much. He started, I want to say he started some games. I know he played a ton for an incoming freshman, right? And it was the first linebacker drill that we had. And, Coach Trick, who was our linebackers coach, the first thing he said to him was that, look, you got a nice fat ass with some strong thighs behind you. If you start dropping your hips, because when you make tackles, you drop your hips and you're supposed to drop your hips and have the right technique and all that kind of stuff. He goes, you start dropping your hips and exploding the right way, you're going to put a hurting on some people. You're going to put a hurting on some people. All right. That wasn't him being disrespectful. That was him pointing out a physical attribute that he knew if he can teach him the right way, if he can, show him how it's done, then he's going to be a great player. It's the same thing in business, same thing in whatever field or industry that you choose to work in, that when someone is pointing out a physical attribute or something that you're naturally gifted towards doing, then there's a sense that you're in the right situation, because you know now that you're being called up to do something great. You're being called up and you're in the right situation. So his body type and what he was about and all the attributes that he has, that would have made him a great linebacker. Same thing in business. Somebody may have a natural ability with numbers, or may have the gift of gab, may have something that they are natural. And we all have it. All right. It's up to you to find it, but they have something that they have a natural gift towards doing, a natural inkling, a natural thing that they love doing, that makes them suitable for a certain job. And that person, whoever the leader is pointing it out. So that leads to number 2 and number 3. Actually, 2, 3, and 4 go in one swoop, one like initial swoop in it, that the encouragement that you receive from this person won't be demeaning. All right. It'll be constructive, even though it may sound demeaning to some outsider looking in. The encouragement from these people it's going to be very constructive. All right. So if you look at the example of Kenny, if he had big hips and a fat ass and all that, he says, if you explode your hips and you put a hurting on some people, you're going to play, right? You see how the encouragement was more so about, hey, we're going to get you on the field. We're going to get you on the field, and then you're going to be making a lot of plays as a incoming freshman if we can teach you how to lean into those strengths and really, move in the right way. So that encouragement was constructive. Next thing is there's an internal motivation that starts to kick in, because you have the talent, you have the ability. It's just a matter of figuring out how I can take advantage of this talent and this ability. Is an internal thing that shows up when you realize you're naturally gifted at something, and then you feel that sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency that starts happening when you have the ability, you have the talent, you have the support. There's a sense of urgency that kicks in terms of what it is you're going to be doing. And then number 5, the big thing is the competition, guys. The competition. When you start realizing there's a sense of urgency, you have the ability, you have all of that going in your direction. Now competition starts coming in, because now you got to compete. You got to use all of your abilities, use all of your tools, use all of the things that you have seen from 1 through 4, the pointing out of a physical attribute, the internal motivation, now the sense of urgency, now what was the other one? Yeah. Pointing out the encouragement. Yeah. The encouragement that's not being necessarily, not necessarily being demeaning, but more so constructive. Now you're going to face people that are just as talented, have the ability, same ability as you have. And now you have to focus on, hey, I got to get better every day. Once all 5 of those things are understood, then you will be all right. In fact, I use the example. I'll just read it directly for my podcast listeners. So number 5, competition forces you to rise. I'll end with one more story from my Stony Brook days. In my second season, I was moved to offense, playing fullback and sitting in the tight end room. There were 3 main tight ends competing for reps. 2 of them were prototypes, tall, athletic, soft hands, but the third guy, he was shorter, not flashy, but he was strong and an elite run blocker. We were a running team. The coach pulled the 2 tall players aside and said, Fenn's going to beat you out. You better start blocking. So Fenn was the short guy. He was strong and like an elite run blocker. That's who Fenn was. So when he said Fenn's going to beat you out, he was referring to Chris. His name is Chris Fenelon, I believe, now strength coach for Iowa State. I can't remember. Last I heard he was with Temple. Let me look it up real quick because I remember doing this on Sunday and I cannot remember where he is now. Real quick, let me look this up. Bowling Green, yeah, he's a strength coach. He's a strength coach for Bowling Green, the head football strength coach, in fact, for Bowling Green University. Yeah, just got named just this past year, so it'll be his first season there. And anyway, he was talking about, shout out to Chris, shout out to Fenn. I got to get you on the show too, by the way, bro, if you're listening. So he was again real strong guy, elite run blocker, and even though the two tight ends were tall, softer hands, and they look like prototypical tight ends, they were told, hey, he's gonna beat you out if you don't start working, if you don't start getting movement on run blocks, he's going to beat you out. Then the very next day in our run blocking drill, called from reading directly from the article now, podcast listeners, in the very next day in our run blocking drill called frontage, the coach shouted, don't watch someone get better than you. Let's go. Being called up, not because you're failing, but because someone else is raising the bar. Don't sit back and watch someone get better than you. That is what's happening, okay? Do not sit back and watch a person get better than you. Don't do it. It is not okay. All right, it's not okay to sit back, especially when you know you have the ability, you know you have the encouragement, you know you have the support, you know you have all the things that you need. The competition now starts to rise. So that's what we spoke about, is all 5 of these things are kind of jumbled up and they happen instantaneously when you get called out or when you get corrected, when someone tells you something about yourself that you don't necessarily want to hear, even though it's true and it's right and all that kind of stuff. You don't necessarily want to hear it, but it's a matter of making sure now, is this person now calling me out or are they calling me up? And that's a lot of it is going to be based on your interpretation. A lot of it is going to be based on your faith in God and faith in whatever it is you do and how much confidence you really have in terms of what it is you say you want to do. You can only lie for so long. You can only bullshit people for so long. You can only, you can only say so much to a person before you realize, hey, I got to start having confidence in myself to do the things that I say I want to do. I say it all the time on this show. You guys have heard me say it over and over, and I'll repeat it as often as I can, is at some point, you got to be responsible for your own self-determination, your own self-determination. All right. It's called self-determination, and you got to be responsible for it. No one else is going to take responsibility for you. Everybody else, like I said at the beginning, has their own situations and has lived through whatever it is that they've lived through. And when you all clash, you got to understand that the clashing is not personal. It's not a personal clash. It's not a personal, I'm going to call this person out because this person did this and I don't like. It's never a personal thing. It's all about, there's my point of view, there's your point of view. You have to understand everybody's point of view, respect it, and then move forward with however the fuck it is you're going to move forward. That is what has to happen. All right. That's what has to happen. And that happens every single day, constantly. You're never going to run into a situation in which everything is just going to move in a smooth line. No, it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be ups. It's going to be downs. It's going to be ups. It's going to be downs. It's going to be highs. It's going to be lows. But you got to maintain whatever it is you want to be doing in terms of your long-term plans. All right. In terms of what you plan on moving forward with. Do not ever let that the person who is criticizing you or saying this and saying that about you, do not ever let it get to the point where you're losing a sense of yourself and you're losing control of the things that you had planned previously. All right. So that was the top 5 ways to understand it, because there's a processing mechanism that comes with, hey, am I being called up or am I being called out? Am I being called up or am I being called out? Those 5 move like they move like clockwork. Right? It happens like clockwork because you just don't know what someone else is thinking and how they're going to operate. All right. So that's what we talked about on Tuesday. As far as Wednesday, we broke down Wintrepreneur Wednesday by documenting yours truly. Went back to some of my days as a Miami Dolphin Foundation seller. All right? And the goal for me back speaking of my college days, back when I was in college, was to work for a pro sports team, to build a career with a pro sports team before I turned 30. And I got the opportunity. I was approaching my 28th birthday. I was living in St. Petersburg, and then the Miami Dolphins Foundation came with a part-time job offer, just offering something that I could, sell, just do something, right? So no questions asked. I have to take it, move out there, and start building my life out here in South Florida. And I'll read it to you directly. I'll pass. You guys know what a Wintrepreneur is. If you have not subscribe to my Medium channel, just go to medium.com at MoveSwiftly44. Articles are coming out there at the very least 3 days a week. But as football season comes along, we'll start, doing more of this kind of stuff. I'm getting control. In fact, I just wrote the article for next week. And, the last Monday of every month, I'm always calling myself out and giving myself my monthly goals and seeing how I did on the previous month and all that. So I just finished doing that before I started recording. And, to think about how far this system has come and how much I've done, it is one of those things whenever I'm thinking about, the Dolphins gig and how that panned out and what I'm able to do now. It is rewarding, but it's also like, man, there's so much more I could have dreamed to do, so much more, and that's why I'm always really, really an advocate for encouraging people to not let their current circumstance derail them from whatever their long-term vision needs to be, or whatever their long-term vision is. So as I close you out, I'm going to just kind of recap what I talked about yesterday. I'm going to read it directly now. What does it mean to attach a number to your name? All right. So after graduating from Stony Brook University, I had one simple goal: work in professional sports before the age of 30. All right. Coaching, scouting, sales, I didn't care. I just wanted it. At the same time, I was thinking about my ideal life partner. At the time, I envisioned marrying a Miami Heat dancer. No lie. Why? Because I was a huge fan. I dreamed of living in South Florida, and I had landed a job with the Miami Dolphins Foundation doing sales. I was on track, working hard and slowly checking boxes. During my time with the Dolphins Foundation, the Miami Heat hosted 2 networking events. The first one was a mess, no structure, no formal introductions. You were basically on your own, but I went anyway for the experience and the dancers. Yeah, that night I did meet a Heat executive. We spoke. He said to email him, and I followed up. No response. It happened. So second networking event, night and day. The Heat organization clearly got the feedback. There were intros, clear structure, and better opportunities to connect. That same executive, the one who never replied, got on the mic, and what he said stuck with me forever. He said, "You want a job in sports? Then I want to see the number attached to your name." Boom. The crowd lit up, and that was it. That was the truth about sports, business, and life. Numbers matter. It's not about what you say you can do. It's about what you're proven you can deliver on. So what's your number? At the time I heard him say that, I didn't need validation. I had already become one of the top sellers for the Miami Dolphins Foundation across 2 seasons. He may not have replied to my email, but the number spoke. That's what attaching a number to your name looks like. So here's the challenge to every Wintrepreneur reading this. What number can you attach to your name? Sales you've generated, people you've trained, events you've led, clients you've helped, episodes you've dropped. This is how we build credibility. This is how we separate from the crowd. This is how we prove our alignment and back it with performance. You want to be a Wintrepreneur. Don't just show up, track your work, put the numbers so loud that they can't ignore you. Period, point blank, end of sentence. All right. When you're talking about being called up and really knowing the difference and I'll just kind of close you guys out with this, is really track all the stuff you do, track your performance, track what you're all about, and then really ask yourself, are these numbers and everything I'm tracking, is it in alignment with my long-term goals? That's the difference, all right? Because you will meet people on this journey, all right? Great people. Again, there's great people I've met. There's people that, even the people that I don't even bang with, that I genuinely don't like, I consider them great people because they help me decipher the kind of people that I don't want in my business. I don't want in my company. I don't want at all around me, because they have nothing positive and nothing constructive to bring to a community that I'm looking to build, a positive minded thinking community that I'm looking to build. You don't want certain people around you, right? You want to remove yourself from folks around that are not going to be conducive to that development. So I enjoy when I run into folks like that, because I know to remove myself from the situation, not to engage in dialogue. So when you're being called up, understand it's going to be the most challenging and the most difficult things you have to deal with mentally. But on the back end of it, you will start to reach the higher goals that you didn't even know that you could set for yourself. Something I'm living through right now in this moment. I never planned on being in West Palm Beach. The school wasn't even built when I got to Florida. This wasn't even an option. However, the positioning and what I decided that I was going to do in terms of how I wanted to structure my life, I became an ideal person to be at a center like this, where I don't need a teaching certification. I needed to be an entrepreneurial minded person that can come in, create opportunities for myself, create, situations for myself in which I will be better off because I was here. That's the key. You see, and you can find opportunities in whatever it is you're trying to do if you have that mindset. But you just got to be patient. You got to be willing to go through some fucked up, like some really, really rough times. And also understand nothing's ever personal. It's only because folks are trying to get you better, or you forget about other people. You in your own heart, you're trying to get better regardless of what the situation is. All right. So all that being said, tomorrow we have another faith-based Friday. Again, film session Saturday, as we always do, and then we'll be back on Stay Hired Sunday. I had to miss it this past Sunday because I went to a baseball game and I could not pass it up. I had to reschedule it. But yeah, we're gonna be diving deep into it, because I had a topic ready and everything ready. It's just the baseball game I went to this past Sunday, we got just went longer than I expected. But we'll be back this Sunday, and then next week diving into my monthly goals for July, and then next week's topic, we're talking all about how to go from prompt to product. As you can, let me just show you again, the shirt, rocking the shirt, get your plus LY Wintrepreneur tees on makeitmove.com. We're gonna be just talking about how this shirt came about and how just going from, again, prompt to product. The AI, it's your employee. It's not your boss. Use AI as an employee, and do not use it as it's going to just be your boss in terms of how it is you operate. All right. So all that being said, again, main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing. It's makeitmove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.